It doesn't really matter what situation you're working with, that flowchart can be a helpful roadmap, because you're going to begin with, what is it that I'm noticing? What I might be noticing is that my nervous system is braced and guarded because my needs for trust are not met. And that's where I start the conversation. So it's a flowchart and a way of being in conversation about what we are noticing to be true about my experience and your experience in the here and now. And then trying to sort out what is and isn't possible, given the deepest truth of our present moment experience as it is, and what choices we have about that. Where I'd recommend you begin is with the practice of neutral observation, of noticing and naming what is alive and real for each of us in the now. Start with that kind of check-in. I'm noticing myself feeling really stuck, not seeing choices that I enjoy, having an attachment to a parallel reality that doesn't seem possible in this moment, noticing myself really grasping for something that we can't embody yet, this kind of thing. We can just notice and name each person's interiority without any demand that it be different as the starting place for the conversation we want to have. And then I would slow it down and really just take your time, like an acknowledgement of the stuckness that we are currently in and how intractable it feels and how much pain is in this space. Let's name it, let's put it on the table, and let's just hold it together without doing anything about it for a moment. If I don't know what's going on in me, I have very little to offer in a conversation in which we're exploring about what is going on or what is possible, because I'm not aware of it yet. I'm not aware of it yet. I'm not connected to it yet. And perhaps in any given relational frame, I have rules going on in me and protective systems going on in me that I'm not willing to get aware or available to that data in this person's presence. So then I know that and I notice that, and then we figure out, one, does this person or do I mean, either way, do I want to get aware or not? Would I enjoy doing that internal work or not? And we honor people's choices. We're not trying to make anyone get anywhere that they don't want to go. We're not imposing an agenda on anybody that we think is better for them. And we're not hurrying people up into doing something that they're not ready to do. Okay, but here's what I do with it. This is what's helped me, and you pick the things that fit for you and don't take the things that don't. The very first thing that I do is I relax my nervous system and I work on seeing the beauty of what is in front of me as it is. I notice any agenda in myself that somebody be more awake, be more skilled, be more fluent, be more transparent, be more courageous, be more emotionally nourishing, be more emotionally intimate. Whatever the longing is that I'm having, I figure out what that is and I drop it. So for me, it's dropping my attachment and agenda for someone else to be showing up in a way that I prefer. So that's one piece of my inner work. The next piece is learning how to sit with, practicing for myself, how to sit with the tension of the difference between what I see in my mind as a possibility in the future and the current state of what is available in the now. And then I soften my own being into first figuring out how I am going to work with this person as they are, with no demand that there is change, with no pressure for change. Because the last thing that I want to do is be yet another person in their lives that they need to resist. So that's where we get the safety from. And I work on understanding. I start looking at what they are doing. Like in psychological language, I might say I start naming and noticing all the defenses. In nonviolent language, you might say, I start paying attention to the strategies that they are using and that they are currently attached to. And I begin unpacking the good reason why that would be there and why that behavior makes the most sense for that person to be using right now, given whatever has happened to them in the past. And I start by building validation, validation, validation. You are fine as you are. You make sense. I'm guessing it might be like this. Am I right? I'm guessing you learned to do this like this. Am I right? Tell me how you learned to do this. When did you need to do this? How does this work for you? That's the early stages. But if I'm coming at that with an agenda that is, let's unpack this because this is a bad and wrong way of being that is getting in your way, and I want to help you fix it. If I'm coming from that energy, I'm making it 20 times harder for me and the other person. And I don't really know. I don't really know. And if there's something that's going on in me that is like, I heard you say something like, I've learned these skills and they're really useful and they're really like, I have that too. I will express it in that way. I might say, look, I can understand that your preferences are really to go silent. You have a reluctance. I'm making something up now, right? Like you have a reluctance to actually put yourself out there, and it makes sense to me. Here's what I think. I think it helps you feel protected, feel safe. Is that right? Is it something different? Right. So I'm going to tune to where somebody is at. And at some point, if I am able to build enough rapport, I might say, there are things that I've learned to do in my life that I have personally found really enriching in the following ways. And I can find in myself a deep longing to share them with you. But I also feel reluctant because I don't want it to feel to you like pressure to be like me. But if you're ever interested in some of the things that have worked or some of the ideas that I'm having, I want you to know that they're there. I'm holding them back. And please ask about them anytime if you're interested. Some version of that. Some, maybe not those exact words, but in that spirit and in that energy, I make myself available. And then I only, one of the things, I shouldn't say only because I don't think I do this very perfectly, but I have a deep intention to give people what they're asking for, not what I think they should have. I think one of the things that I heard you say, if you listen to this on the recording, is that it feels like dying to self. And I have a couple of thoughts about that. If dying to self means self-sacrifice, I feel some hesitation about that. I'm not recommending any kind of self-neglect, self-abandonment, self-sacrifice. If dying to self means to you containing my ego and my personality and the younger parts of me that need to be seen and known, and responding from a wiser, deeper, loving part of me that I trust more, and letting go of some of my more personality trait, egoic things, if that's what it means, there might be some wisdom in there. So it's hard for me to make a comment because I'm not sure exactly what that phrase means to different people. But what I would say is there is something just intensely practical about go back to what is my intention? Am I trying to control and change somebody? Or am I trying to connect with somebody and help them figure out their next best step? And sometimes what other people choose for their best next step is not what we would choose. And that's okay. That's what it means to be a free, self-sovereign human being on the planet, creating your own life and being responsible for your own choices. We don't have to make the same decisions. We don't have to have the same values or preferences. And, the only last thing that I'll say on this piece is when I am in a quote unquote helper role, there's a lot of discernment going on all the time about what are my values. And I want to be really explicit with people about these are my values and this is how I work and this is the work that I do. If that's a good fit for you, we have a match. If that's not a good fit for you, let me help you find somebody who is going to be a good fit for you. I don't want to impose myself on people that don't want what I have to offer. So there's a discernment phase. And then there's also the sense of, as a quote unquote helper, what is my central intention? And that needs to be really, really clear because one of mine is not to project all of my values on the rest of the world. It is to live into my own values as inspiration. But part of my intentions, and this is partly why we start these calls this way, is how can I support you in being deeply connected with yourself, loving of yourself, getting in touch with your deepest truth, and then learning how to say that in the most clear, direct, kind, gentle, relational way while letting go of whatever the outcome is going to be of that. That's what I'm here about. Not everybody loves that. Not everybody agrees with that. Not everybody wants that. But it's a kindness for me to be clear about it, because the people who want that can find me, and the people who don't want that can vet me out right away and sort me out right away and go and find what they actually need. So those are just a few of my closing thoughts on that piece.